So we're at Shine in Hub King's Cross. We've just had a very stimulating discussion. There have been two groups. One has taken the role of really understanding what needs to happen locally for the structures to be there so that local community can be empowered. We have more social entrepreneurship and more kind of enterprising activity at the local level, what needs to be there. And then there's another group that's been led by Cliff that's about what top-down structures can we put in place so that really works together with what's happening at the local level. And we're going to just see what has come out of those discussions and perhaps start with either Geraldine yourself from local community or Cliff from top-down. Who wants to go first?
Well, in the group where we talked about the local experience, there's a real can-do attitude. Lots of people saying, actually, social entrepreneurs are out there, on the streets, walking around, talking to people, listening to people, talking about what they need to do. The kind of support they find most useful from local agencies, the kind of support they would like to see, is exactly that same approach, is the agencies themselves being out there, listening, talking to people, giving them exactly the support they need. And that coming from people who have some kind of track record in entrepreneurship themselves, who really are passionate about it and who are very flexible about the kind of support that they can deliver, and are making sure that that's really tailored to local people's needs.
Okay. Well, at the national level, the group I was working with identified that the national organisations can make things visible. They can make the opportunities visible, the support services that are on offer visible, also the needs and challenges, so that people can more easily see, well, I live in Canning Town, here's a place that I can go to for help, whether that's at local level or some sort of specialist level. National agencies can also help government off this strange parent-child relationship it has with local communities, to a more adult relationship. And one of the ways national agencies can do that is by aggregating up the work and demonstrating what impact it achieves, to give government more confidence that this is a valuable place to put resources, that you're not wasting your money, that you can get good outcomes from it. The third thing that national agencies can do, as said, was broker in support, whether that's from government or more likely these days from business or from foundations, which wouldn't be able to relate to hundreds of local agencies. But the national agencies can act as a distribution channel through to local social entrepreneur support agencies, and that's for resources but also for opportunities, things like aggregating up for example, getting a cheaper insurance deal because you're doing it in very large numbers, and almost every social venture that starts employing people or spending money will need insurance. So all sorts of supplies, regulatory issues and so on that could be simplified and done more cost effectively by the right relationship between local and national. Now here comes the challenge. What's the nature of that relationship? If we at Unltd get a deal with a big company that says we'll put in £500,000 to support start-up social entrepreneurs in our area of interest, whatever that might be, and we as a national agency want to relate to local agencies to say, do you have people who are interested in this sort of activity? Are there really people? Recommend them, and then they can go into this scheme and get this financial and other support. In order to do that, we've got to make sure the local agencies operate to a good quality. Otherwise, we'll never get another deal from that company. But the local agencies may well say, hey, what do you know up there at national level? What do you know about the real needs? You're not going to the companies saying what the real needs and real opportunities are. So from our business case point of view, we've got to have some sort of almost controlling regulatory accreditation system for the local. But is that right?
Well, that's very interesting. I think that it was interesting. We asked the people in the local group about where they'd got their support from and what kind of agencies were most useful. And a number of people said they'd been to the local authority, but actually on questioning, what they meant was they'd been to the local council for voluntary service. So they're going to voluntary sector agencies who don't necessarily think of themselves as providing social enterprise support, or aren't necessarily connected to national social enterprise networks. And the specialist agencies locally, whether that's through, I don't know, a community foundation or are often, their experience was that, well, if you go to that group, they will give you advice about a particular thing, about the fund they can deliver in a particular area, and if you're outside of that area, then it's so the difficulty about having some kind of quality system from a national organisation is about the range of agencies who deliver at a local level, many of whom won't think of themselves as being social enterprise support agencies, but who are actually doing the very practical work on the ground. And the more that we talked about the kind of support people needed, the more I thought, this is just classic community development. This is community development work. And my concern is that community development work is the hardest thing to fund. And what I don't want to see is a whole load of funding going into setting up some new programme that is just replacing something that has worked quite well for quite a long time.
I absolutely agree. We want to keep this light touch, and we want to keep it very open to change. Circumstances do change really, really rapidly, and you don't want to freeze things into, you could have the perfect design for today, and in a couple of years' time, circumstances have changed, like when the recession hit or when the credit crunch hit, and suddenly things are incredibly different. But anybody who's putting resource in wants to know that they're doing good stuff. So there does have to be this quality control somehow. I'm wondering whether it's the visibility that makes all this possible, whether we can design a system where instead of people having to sort of be in charge of quality standards and regulate, that we can make it simply transparent what's happening. So we do not need, as Unltd, to say, Community Links, are you good enough to be delivering one of these programs? What we can do is provide a channel by which the original funder, whether that's an individual or whether it's a company or whoever, can see, actually, that looks good. We'll have more of that, please. And ideally with ratings and feedback by social and community entrepreneurs themselves and the people they support. It's not going to be easy. And I think we're going to have to iterate towards this, and we'll have to make do with things that are just good enough to get on with, to start with. But I think this is going to be the critical thing in what the government have got in mind. Government have got in mind localism and local agencies, but all of the main funding channels at the moment are national, and that relationship between the two, and we know that we're in a media and celebrity and brand obsessed age. A national brand reaches parts that nothing else can reach. So just this architecture between the national and the local, and who owns the architecture, is going to be critical. Interestingly, the big society network, which has come in for a lot of criticism, has offered a mutual structure. Maybe that is the way for a number of us to be going.
I think it's I obviously like the idea of anything that's very light touch. I think one of the things, with the new government, with the big society ideas and with a kind of real focus on social entrepreneurship, I think what we need at a local level is organisations like you to help explain nationally how all of this stuff is already going on. All of this stuff is out there, and it's not about introducing a whole load of new structures. It's about it's about connecting the two and recognising what's good and investing in it.
One last thought. On social investment, one of the recommendations that we've already put into government is that any government-funded social investment fund should publicise all of its deals, the ones that got through and the ones that didn't get through, and why, so that you simply make it transparent for the purposes of learning, but also for future applicants to see, actually, what they really do is this. I've seen it for real now, and that helps me understand.